In this assignment, we skip to Chapter 10. Chapter 10 covers victims of serial murder. Why is it important to understand the victims of a serial murder? These 3 reasons stand out. 1. Studies in victimization assist in clarifying the victim side of the offender-victim relationship. 2. Studies in victimization can measure in part the degree of vulnerability and culpability of certain victims, and often reveal the social dynamics of criminal acts. 3. Information about the victim may point to the offender. When people think about serial killers, they usually focus on the offenders. But to truly understand these crimes, we also need to look closely at the victims, who they are, why they're targeted, and what patterns exist in their victimization. This chapter, as Hickey explains, is dedicated to doing just that. So, as you've heard us say over and over, Professor Reese insists that you read your textbook. Some victims of serial murder are never found or even reported missing. This is especially true for prostitutes, a group often overlooked or ignored by society. Researcher Kenna Connett calls attention to this dark figure of crime. For example, in the Long Island serial killer case, the bodies of several murdered prostitutes were discovered by accident, suggesting there may be many more like them still out there, never accounted for. Serial murders increased significantly from 1950 to 1980, then began to decline. This mirrors a nationwide drop in homicides. However, crime trends are often cyclical, meaning we could see another rise in serial killings in the future. Although the media has raised public awareness, it's not the sole cause of the increase in serial murder cases. One lingering question remains: how many serial killers are active in the United States at any given time? Estimates range from 35 to 100 active offenders each year. That doesn't mean that many new killers emerge each year, but that this many might be operating at any one time. It's important to remember that, overall, homicide is rare. By 2013, U.S. murder rates hit record lows in many cities. Murders make up less than 1% of all violent crimes, and the country experiences twice as many suicides as homicides. In truth, you're far more likely to become a victim of domestic violence or another violent crime than to be killed by a serial murderer. Who do serial killers target? A 2004 study compared 157 serial killers, with 608 victims, to regular homicide offenders. Here's what they found. Serial killers target more women than men. They kill strangers more often than family or friends. They are often sexually motivated. In contrast, single homicide offenders kill men and women equally, usually people they know, and are more likely motivated by anger. These differences show that serial killers typically have specific victim types, motives, and methods that set them apart from other kinds of killers. Where do serial killers operate? Larger states with major cities report more serial killings. But when adjusted for population, smaller states like Alaska sometimes have higher rates than places like New York or Texas. The media often portrays serial killers as drifters who travel across the country, killing at random. But Hickey found that most killers actually stay close to home. He identified 3 types of offender mobility. 1. Place-specific killers who murder in their own homes, workplaces, or institutions. 2. Local killers who stay within a single city or state. 3. Traveling killers who commit murders across state lines. In fact, most victims, about 60 to 70%, are killed by serial killers who stay in one place or within their local area. Many people think serial killers often work in pairs or groups, but the reality is that most act alone. While some killers follow patterns in how they murder, modus operandi, their behavior usually depends on the type of victim they're targeting. Sometimes, victims unknowingly put themselves in risky situations. This is known as victim precipitation, when a victim's behavior contributes to their own death. Studies show that 13 to 15% of serial murder victims, including prostitutes and hitchhikers, fall into this category. Hickey found that stranger-to-stranger murders increased dramatically between 1950 and 2004. Serial killers tend to prefer victims they don't know, especially a young women who are alone, a female college students, a prostitutes. Table 10.6 in your book breaks down the preferences of serial killers depending on whether they target strangers, acquaintances, or family. Each year, 100 to 150 children are abducted by predators who sexually assault and murder them. Shockingly, 75% of these victims are killed within 2 to 3 hours of being taken. Out of 420 serial killers studied, 124% had murdered at least one child. 74% were men, often driven by sexual motives. 26% were women, more often driven by financial motives. The elderly are also vulnerable, especially when living alone. Their isolation makes them easier targets. Most serial killers tend to stick to one victim type. Killers who target prostitutes or college students rarely change. Homosexual serial killers typically go after gay men or boys. Heterosexual killers almost never target gay men. These patterns are important for profiling and investigating serial murder cases. Here is a final note from Professor Reese. There's a lot of important material in this chapter, and not all of it is covered in this video, so be sure to read the chapter carefully, study Figure 10.1, Table 10.1, and Table 10.6. Review notes on trends from 2004 to 2014. You'll likely see questions on this material in your exam, and it's essential for understanding how and why serial killers choose their victims. Have a great day.